eating the lettuce already.
All right, I'm ready. All right, you rolling, Cameron?
Yep.
Okay, so would you tell us about your operation and what all you do here?
So we have about 5.5 acres, and we do a whole lot of different things with that. About 1.5 acres is in annual vegetables, and I would guess that's probably close to 30 different kinds, anything from tomatoes to onions, eggplant, lettuce. Most things that we can grow, we try to grow. And then we have about 1/4 acre in perennials, so rhubarb, asparagus, strawberries. And then we also have about 1.5 to 2 acres of what we call a food forest. So it's fruit trees, berries, some nut trees. Yeah, we try to grow a lot of food.
That's awesome. So how and why did you get started out here?
Okay, so in 2005, I found myself on an organic farm in Oregon. Was the first time in all my years of doing things where it was like, this is what I really want to do. I just really connected with it. I loved having my hands in the soil. I loved growing food. And so I spent 3 years on the farm where I met my now husband. And he just happened to be from the same geographical region as I was. So we made the decision to move back to the prairie, and we started our own project out in Waterloo, Nebraska. And 3-4 years after that, we decided to buy our own property, and that's where we are now. I think a big part of our journey was trying to grow food, and then when we found that people were really interested in it and wanted to support us, you know, monetarily and morally, it was something that we felt driven to continue to do. And it's a lot of hard work. It's a pretty big adventure, but I can't imagine doing anything else.
For sure. So tell me about where you sell your stuff. What's your market?
Our 2 main markets are the farmers markets in Omaha, so the downtown farmers markets on Saturdays, and then the farmers market at Exarban on Sundays. We also have about 8 restaurants that are on a wholesale list. Several of those that have been with us since the beginning, which is really fun. So we've watched them open and grow, and they've kind of been partners with us the whole time.
So tell me, let's talk about peas. Do you have a particular passion for peas, or?
I think one of the things that I love about peas is it's one of the first things that you get to eat after winter. You know, the fact that like winter comes every year and you think about all the fresh food that you're not eating until spring, and it's the first thing that we put in the ground, sometimes even like late February, so really early before the season gets going. And then it's one of the first things that you get to bite into and taste spring and delicious fresh goodness.
That's awesome. So tell me kind of a little bit about like the typical pea cycle, like how you plant them and when
Sure.
they usually come up, and then also tell me how this year was kind of weird.
Yeah. So we generally plant as early as we can get into the ground. So once the ground has thawed, we will amend the bed using, you know, a variety of amendments that give nutrients to the soil. But one thing that's really important with peas or any legume, if you're growing it, is to inoculate them. So, and this might be too much information, but there is an inoculant that comes for beans and peas and legumes like vetch that you add to it before you plant the seed in the soil. And what that helps it do, all of those plants give nitrogen to the soil, and they do that by actually grabbing it from the air. So the bacteria that you're giving them before you plant them is like a partner in that, and kind of enables them to do that. And so you're not just growing this lush, great, healthy vegetable, but it's actually putting energy back into the soil that can be used later. So all that being said, we plant by seed, and then really kind of let it germinate and pop, start to see it grow, and at that point we'll trellis. So we'll actually build like with T-posts and some netting, something for it to crawl on. Usually once that happens, I mean it's in a normal season, I would say by March, if the soil has warmed up enough, by the end of March we have peas that are germinating. And then by the end of April, we're probably starting to eat some of our first peas, starting to pick some of our first peas. Early May, that's not unheard of, where you start to get. This year, however, has been entirely different. We planted peas like we would normally do. I think it was early March, and spring just didn't come. So it was just cold, cold, cold. All the seeds that we had put into the ground just kind of laid dormant, and you just don't know, are they, going to germinate or not. About the middle of April, we actually started to see germination happening, and that was with peas and everything that we had directly sown around it. And so it was already way later than normal. And a lot of times I wouldn't say we lose hope, but there's a good shot that we're not going to get a good pea harvest because they don't like heat. So the later they go, if the flower sets too late and it's too hot, you may not get peas. And then that happened. So we had this, it germinates, there's a window of nice weather, all of a sudden it's really hot, it stays hot, and we started to see some damage in the peas. So some browning, a lot of the new shoots looking rough and unhappy. And we decided to make the decision to try to irrigate as much as possible to keep the soil temperature cooler, and amazingly that worked. I mean, here we are at the beginning of June and we're just picking our first peas. That's unheard of. And kind of incredible. So after doing that, they seem to have made a full recovery from the browning and some of the struggle they seem to have. They're very green and they have a gorgeous flower set. So it seems like we will get a couple flushes of peas, hopefully.
Hold on 1 second. I'm just going to adjust your mic.
Sure.
A little rub happened. That's all right.
Am I moving too much?
Nope.
I can be animated.
Give me like a little shake. Yeah, it's good.
Okay, right on.
Yep.
So tell me, you told us out there, but tell me again, how you know they're ready, the
Yep.
window of good.
The farmer that I learned from was almost a taskmaster when it came to this. So there really is this perfect window of ripeness where a snap pea, in this case, is just right. When they're underripe, they tend to be flat. There might be a little bit of texture happening where the peas are starting to swell. If they're overripe, then what you're seeing is a lot of ridges and it's really taut and it becomes really starchy and tough. There's a space in between there where it's actually quite perfect. It starts to kind of swell a bit. The peas have formed to a certain size and the taste is sweet. The texture is crisp. It's just the most perfect thing for fresh eating.
So do you eat peas at home? How do you fix them?
I just eat peas. I'm not going to say I don't ever cook with them, but when I harvest them, I probably take 1 for every 10 I drop in the basket. And then I'll keep a little pint for myself, and it's a great snack. I mean, it's so satisfying. But I do actually, if I'm making something like a pasta primavera or a salad or something that just kind of calls for something fresh to throw into it, I might throw that in at the end, a little saute of vegetables or something. I don't like to cook them to the point where they don't have crispness anymore. I mean, I still like their vibrance. I think that's important. But yeah, I like to use them just about any way I can.
So you're growing sugar snap peas this year. Have you ever grown any other varieties? I remember used to shell them at Grandma's.
The English peas,
yeah.
probably. We've never grown those. And I think the main reason is just because of the processing. And I don't know, it's probably because I haven't seen really anybody do it. I imagine there's a market for it. We've all got those great memories of shelling peas and eating them fresh. And that's the best way to eat a pea. A lot of times people eat them canned or frozen and it's not the same thing. But we really haven't grown any English peas. We have done snow peas in the past, but mostly snap peas are kind of our gig. Yeah.
Awesome. What are some of the challenges to growing peas apart from, the weather being wonky? Are there pests that are after them? Are they
I have to think about that for a
super
second.
water hungry?
I would say that with peas, the main challenge is definitely climate and weather. I can't think really of a pest except for, when I think of pests, a lot of times I think bugs, But if we talk about the mammals, that would probably be where they would have some competition. So like rabbits, especially when they're young shoots, rabbits will eat peas and enjoy a nice buffet. Deer can definitely ravage some peas. So I think mammals are probably the biggest threat to a pea patch.
What do you hear from your customers? Do they like seek out your peas?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit of a surprise when we bring them to market, because that's one of the first things that we have usually. And so I think that's when people expect to see them. So at this point, I think people have moved on to this idea of summer crops. And so it's going to be kind of like, hey, look, snap peas. But yeah, I think there's just not a lot of, at least in the Omaha farmers markets, I don't see a lot of snap peas. So it's always, I think, kind of a delight for folks to be able to have a little pint that they can snack on and take home.
Sure. Let's see. So, this is a pretty cool way of life, but it's hot and what's your favorite part of this adventure?
You said these were like easy questions. No, you're fine. There's so many things. Like, I think my favorite part of this type of work is that it's so easy to be in the moment with what we do. It is a lot of work. It's so much work. And if you would have told my 20-year-old self that I was going to be doing this, I would have said you were nuts. But when you actually get into the field and you start planting or harvesting or weeding or anything like that, you can really just completely commit to the moment, and it's a beautiful thing. Like everything else, the sound of the birds is there, the wind, the breeze, even the heat, all of it's part of it, and it's really a beautiful thing. And so if you can kind of take away, like, it's hard because running a farm, you have to also have the hat of planning and making sure things are running efficiently, and so there's this organizational thing that goes with that. But when that drops away and all you're doing is growing food, it's awesome.
Anything else that you can think of that we didn't talk about?
Did we talk about location, where we're located?
Oh, we should, yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah, tell us where we are and why it's either great or bad or what you love.
Yeah, so we are just south of Missouri Valley, Iowa, in the Les Hills, which is actually amazing. I know plenty of people that grow food in the region, and it's great nutrient-rich soil, but it's clay. This is just gold. Like, we really hit the jackpot on land. And Matt and I love it here, actually, because of the landscape. We have the rolling hills. It's a beautiful space, but also, yeah, the earth couldn't be any better. And the more we put time and energy into building the soil, the more it gives back. So I don't think that we could be happier with our location. We're also about a 25-minute drive to Omaha, so it's really easy for us to get where our market is and not too far from the interstate. Yeah, it's kind of a little dream.
That's awesome.
Cool. I think that's all.
All right.
Yeah.
You weren't too hard on me.
Gotcha questions.
Yeah, right?
Right. Yay.
All right.
So where else, Cameron, should we?
Yeah, I might just like run around the farm really quick and just get
Run
some
around.
different shots.
Yeah.